My name is Neil Patel, and I help companies generate more revenue through digital marketing. Entrepreneur Magazine said I was the #1 marketer in the world, and they also said I created one of the 100 most brilliant companies. I started my first website at the age of 16. I took all the money that I earned from working at an amusement park, and I paid a marketing firm. The marketing firm provided no results, and I quickly learned that I wasn't alone. Out of my frustration and from being broke, I had no choice but to learn marketing. My first client was a power supply manufacturer. I helped him generate another $25 million in sales, and from that point, I realized the power of marketing. I helped everyone that I could, and I built my reputation by being honest and over-delivering. I've helped companies like Google, NBC, Viacom, General Motors, eBay, but nothing's more satisfying than helping small business owners succeed. I founded 4 multi-million-dollar companies, and I've learned all the mistakes that you should avoid. I've written about them on Forbes, Entrepreneur, Inc., Fast Company, and even on my own blogs. It's so awesome to know that colleges from all around the world are teaching my material in their classroom. Over the years, I've received awards from the President of the United States, the House of Representatives, and the United Nations. People believe marketing is expensive and difficult. Fortunately, that's not true. There is a formula. Even if you don't have a technical bone in your body, you can get results. And my mission is to share this formula with you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you guys for being here. So I'm going to dive right in, share my screen so we can just start the presentation. So let's load it up. Got to go back to the first slide, view, enter full screen. No, that's not it. Exit, view presentation. Where is it? Is this presentation view? No, that's not it. Slideshow, I think. There you go. Awesome. So today we're going to be going over 7 easy but powerful SEO tips to boost your traffic to your website. I'm the co-founder of NP Digital. We're an ad agency that helps companies grow of all sizes, from small mom and pop startups all the way to Fortune 100 companies. Create a few other companies as well, a lot of them in the software space. We also own Ubersys, which is an SEO tool. And today we have a few people with us. Some of you guys already know about me, but we also have Matt here and David Shapiro here, which are both part of NP Digital. Matt, do you want to do a quick introduction on yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So absolute pleasure to be here. Always great getting a chat next to you, Neil. I'm Matt Santos. I'm the Vice President of Products and Strategy at the NP Excel division underneath the NP Digital umbrella. Been with the agency for 3 years, been in the digital marketing space for close to 10 now.
Hey, everybody. My name is David Shapiro. I am the Vice President of Earned Media here at NP Digital. Been with NP Digital for about 3 years as well. Been in the industry for about 15 or so. Great to be here and look forward to this presentation.
And now 7 easy but powerful SEO tips to boost your traffic to your site. But before we dive into the tips, you're probably wondering, hey, SEO is tough. Why should I still care about it? Well, first off, 68% of online experiences begin with a search engine. That's powerful. And, the saying is if it doesn't exist on Google, it really doesn't exist at all. And that's kind of true because Google holds 91.9% market share of search engine usage. And just think about it this way. Around the world, a lot of people are using Android devices. And what's the default browser or the default search engine? It's Google, right? And also when you're thinking about doing SEO, keep in mind a lot of people use Google not just to find things to buy or services, but they use Google to answer questions that they may have. And if you think about it, a lot of the search queries, it's not 15%, but it's roughly 14.1% of all queries are in a form of a question. And I don't recommend buying links. Links are a powerful part of ranking on Google. But the average cost of buying a link, according to Ahrefs, is $361.44. People wouldn't be spending that kind of money if it didn't help with SEO and it was an important factor. And again, we don't recommend buying links. We're just using this stat to prove a point that links impact rankings. You should ideally, not even ideally, you should earn them by creating amazing content or a great service or a great product, so that way people want to naturally link to you.
So we'll start with tip number one, which is really focused around measurement. And the focus here is around Google Analytics 4. And it's two things. One, learning more about it, and then implementing it, really as soon as you feel comfortable. I've been doing this long enough to remember when Google Analytics was actually called Urchin, and then Google bought them. And that was a long time ago. And then I think the next biggest update from there was after they removed keywords, so SEOs used to actually be able to see keywords in Google Analytics, and they removed those. And now GA4 is actually, probably the biggest change since then. It allows you to track web and app, which is different. And it's a lot less focused on sessions and a lot more focused around, users and conversion events. And so, definitely want to implement that, as soon as you can, because it helps you understand everywhere your users might be visiting your site, and then using predictive analytics to help understand what might happen next. So, there are a couple of, tips and reports that are really valuable. Number one, Neil, if you want to maybe go to the next one. Perfect. Yeah, so there's a churn report and a funnel exploration report, which are both really valuable. Churn reporting is obviously incredibly important to really any business. Understanding what might cause your customers to leave and when they might leave is a really valuable piece of information that GA4 helps you better understand and helps you better predict. It's possible there are some content strategies that you want to create and utilize for your website if it's going to help you reduce churn. And so GA4 has reports that help you do that. And then along those lines, there's also funnel exploration reports that help you better understand the specific journeys that users on your site are going through. And the better you're able to understand your customers, the better you're able to create content and develop SEO strategies that help you increase the number of people that convert, and then decrease, the amount of churn that you might have over a given time period. So, GA4 is definitely it's a lot different than the previous version. So, there is a learning curve, but the insights that you're able to glean around your customers and how they're interacting with your website, are definitely worth the transition. So what we'd recommend is definitely, keeping the Google Analytics profiles that you have, setting a new one up with Google Analytics 4, and then letting data collect. And then as you continue to learn more about it, as you feel comfortable, start to rely more on the GA4 version. And then at some point you can probably remove the tags from the previous versions if the data is no longer useful. But a ton of useful insight from GA4, and we recommend that you learn more about it and then implement it once you feel comfortable.
All right. Thanks, David. So tip number two, let's talk a little bit about content, because content still reigns as king within the SEO realm. So what we're going to chat about today is how to make your content better than the top 3 results on Google search engine result pages. So a lot of you may or may not ask yourself this question, but if you haven't yet, this is a very important question to ask, is if you were your own target audience, would you prefer to read your content or your competitors' content? And that's a question that you need to consistently ask yourself over the course of running an SEO campaign. So the competitors that you want to focus on aren't only just the competitors that you may think of locally or in kind of the back of your mind. It's essentially who's ranking within the top 3 positions of a search engine result page. Those are really the competitors that you want to take into focus here. And if you may or may not know, the number 1 result on Google still to this day obtains about 31%, sometimes even higher, depending on the SERP, of the number of traffic and clicks. So you want to be consistently aiming for number 1. But also within that realm, positions 3 and 5 also do receive some spikes in traffic as people are kind of coming back to the search engine result page and scrolling down and looking for more information. So it's not always just being number one. It's kind of being within those top 3 to 5 positions that you want to be aiming for across all of the different keywords that you're ranking for. Because anytime you're putting in the efforts to increase your SEO campaign, as you keep moving up the SERP, you're going to consistently see increases in traffic. Sometimes those increases can be as much as 30% click-through rates, moving from position 5 to position 3, or from position 3 to position 1. So you want to make sure that you're looking at those top 3 to 5 positions. So here's a helpful tip on some tools that you guys can use to make this an action item for you today. So Ubersuggest is a great tool to do something like this with, as well as Ahrefs, and they both give you similar capabilities around looking at your competition and seeing what type of content they are producing. So within Ubersuggest or Ahrefs, you can punch in your competition's domain, and from there you can start to see all of the different keywords that they're ranking for. You want to sift through to keywords that they're ranking very high for, so positions 3 and above on Google search engine result pages. And from there, you want to look at the URLs that are ranking for those keywords. Go to those URLs and start reading the content that are on those pages, because that's the content that users reacted well towards. That's the content that Google search engine algorithm reacted well towards. So you want to basically look at that content, juxtapose it against your own content, and figure out, where are the gaps? Where can I improve? What can I be doing better? What are more keywords that I could be including in my content to help me rank for stuff like this and supersede my competition? You also want to look at backlinks as well, because backlinks are other forms of content that are supporting your competitors' content, and figure out, again, where are the gaps in my strategy that I can be implementing? And Ubersuggest and Ahrefs are 2 tools that can help you conduct this type of research. A helpful example that we wanted to point out for you guys today is that NP Digital, we work with Adobe. And last year, we conducted an integrated content strategy for them that really created some incredible results. So what we did is we started off with a similar strategy that we're talking about today. We looked at some of their competition. We looked at the overall market within their space, because we're working specifically within the XD design space of Adobe. And we basically created this fully integrated content strategy with multiple blog posts, a comprehensive guide. And essentially what it did for them is it increased page 1 rankings by more than 600% across hundreds of different keywords. New keywords they were never ranking for before. Existing keywords that they're ranking for received much better positions because of this comprehensive strategy. And so essentially what ended up happening is, due to some of these efforts, close to half of their traffic started coming from the organic search medium, which is pretty incredible for a website like Adobe. And because of this integrated content strategy, we were able to win an award through the OMA Awards for the best SEO campaign of 2020. So some pretty incredible results when you start to integrate a content strategy such as this. And so a couple steps that you can take to help integrate a competitor content strategy today is essentially, like I said before, you want to use an SEO tool such as Ubersuggest to basically do some competitor ranking analysis and figure out the URLs that are bringing the most traffic and ranking the highest based on the content that they're using. Pay attention to that popular content, look at the keywords they're using, look at the backlinks that are pointing to those pages. From there, you want to make sure that you're creating long form content that hopefully can be evergreen as well, so that it's not specific to a time frame and kind of gets outdated after a few months, but can last the test of time. And then essentially reach out to those competitor backlinks that were linking to your competition and see if they want to link to your content, because now you've created better content than your competition. So it also can be a linkable asset based on these strategies. And finally, examine the flow of competitors' traffic to see where you still have gaps and where you can continue to improve, because this is not a static strategy. This is pretty dynamic. You want to consistently do this month over month.
All right. So staying on the theme of links, tip number 3 is focused on 2 things. One, running internal link audits to understand how you're linking to your important pages throughout the website. And then secondly, continuing to improve the link building practices that you have for your website. The internal links are really important, because you should be constantly evaluating them. And that's one area that we see a lot of website owners not focus enough attention is your navigation and the links that are pointing to other pages throughout your website. So often the navigation is kind of just set and forget, when you should be consistently evaluating, new URL options, new category options to see if they have better results, both for users and for search engines. So, really looking at your internal links and trying to understand how they could continue to be improved is a big area of potential growth for, a lot of clients that we work with. If you think of why Wikipedia is successful, it's really these two things, right? They get a ton of people linking to them, but they do such a good job of linking to other pages within their own website. They're able to funnel all of the link equity that they're getting from those other websites to all of their internal pages, which consequently helps them rank. And so, you really want to make sure that we're focusing on, internal link audits, but then more importantly too, continuing to enhance the link building that you're doing for your own website. The last thing that you really want to do are link building schemes, things like private blog networks and things that if Google engineers were to see that you were doing them, they're more inclined to possibly decrease, your rankings in search. So, definitely want to stay away from link building schemes, but you also want to continually audit both your internal and external links to figure out how you're able to provide the most link equity to, the more important pages on your website. And so, a couple tips around getting a lot of these links are, doing like stat roundups and long form content. If you think about what journalists are often trying to do, they're often looking up statistics to help, drive the points that they're trying to make and back up the points they're trying to make. So they'll often search for, or they'll use queries that are about statistics around the industry. So marketing statistics, SEO statistics, things along those lines. And if you are able to have a page on your website that has up-to-date statistics, a lot of the journalists and influencers in your space, may link to your site when they're trying to reference those types of statistics. And then, the example on the right is really long-form, in-depth content, to increase the amount of people that might want to link to something. We continue to see great results from long-form content. Search engines tend to rank it really well, and it helps you establish you're an expert in the topics for which you want to be visible. So if you're able to create robust, long-form pieces of content, that's a signal to users and to search engines that you're an expert on the topic and that they should reward your website with visibility. And so, here's 5 steps to, really improve the quantity and quality of both your internal and external backlinks. You want to audit your links to better understand the quality. You want to create content that's focused on trending topics. Run surveys to create data-driven content. And as we talked about, using statistics and trying to rank for a lot of those statistic type terms. You want to build long-form content. And then last but not least is continue to prioritize better link building strategies so you can, continue to increase the quality of the links that are pointing to your website and ultimately engage more with influencers and journalists and really anybody that has the eyes and ears of your audience. You want to be able to get links from those types of websites.
Excellent. So yeah, let's talk about tip number 4. This one is a little bit newer of a concept for a lot of people in the SEO world. I think A/B testing has been something that's been around for quite some time within like conversion rate optimization, within paid media, within email marketing campaigns. But now SEO, we're looking at A/B testing as a tactic specifically for your title tags, because I don't know if you know this or not, but Google has started A/B testing essentially against your website to figure out what are better titles that are going to increase click-through rates so that more users can essentially come to your website. So a question that you want to ask yourself is, how many times has Google rewritten your titles? Do you even know if they're rewriting your titles right now? Because a lot of people may not be aware of that. So essentially, A/B testing of title tags is a little bit of a manual habit. You're going to have to basically pay attention to some of your top traffic pages. And what you're going to want to do is essentially rewrite these titles periodically and pay attention to the data. So a lot of studies from Google show that right now, currently in the search engine, they're rewriting about 61% of titles with or without people knowing. And again, Google's doing that because it's in the best interest of both Google as well as your website. Google knows that people come to it to find an answer or to find a solution. If they keep noticing that people leave Google because they're not finding great results, that's not good for Google, right? So Google wants to ensure that when they're creating the best possible experience, they may need to help websites to produce better title tags. So they've started grabbing content from your own website to help rewrite title tags because they feel like those may be better. So essentially some of the things that you may want to focus on when rewriting title tags to improve click-through rates, maybe the length of those title tags. So what we've seen is that title tags that are a little bit shorter and sticking to Google's age-old character count limits of about 55 to 65 characters are normally still producing the best possible results. Making sure that you're using separators. What we've noticed within the data is that using dashes as opposed to pipes normally produce a little bit of a higher click-through rate. Also, using keywords is very important. So Google has found that websites that use the same keyword multiple times in their title tag tend to produce worse in the search engine result pages. So you want to make sure that you're only using a keyword once. If you need to use multiple keywords, use a primary and a secondary keyword in a title tag. Those still produce good results. But these are some of the things that you want to start A/B testing when changing your title tags for a given page. The last thing I want to mention on this slide is we have found that Google has not rewritten title tags if the H1 of that page reflects very similarly to the title tag of that page. So essentially, if it's either the same exact copy or it's extremely similar in nature, Google has found that users have a much better experience because they're seeing a title tag, they're seeing that that may be the answer to their question or their solution to their issue. They're clicking on it, and the first thing that's loading above the fold on the screen is an H1 that reflects that same title tag. So that's building the best possible experience. So if you can make sure your H1s match those title tags, you should have a much higher click-through rate and not see Google rewrite your title tags as often. Some quick examples that I want to touch on based on A/B testing. So two companies that have taken huge advantage of this in the past couple of years have been Zippy as well as Ahrefs. So Ahrefs specifically on the right, you're going to see that they've been A/B testing some of their title tags on some of their key pages, and they've seen a lift of about 37.5% across the board of some of their most optimized pages, which is great. Zippy's, on the other hand, what they did is they matched their H1s a lot better with their title tags, and they saw a massive increase. They pretty much almost doubled. And so what you can see here is that A/B testing, as well as matching the H1 to your title tags, can have a significant improvement in how your website performs on Google search engine result pages. And so a couple helpful tips here. We have about 6 steps that can help you take this into action today. So the first thing is, obviously, you want to identify the opportunities on your website. Obviously, most people are not going to have time to A/B test every single page on their website. Maybe choose the top 5 or 10 pages that are bringing you the most keywords ranked for, the most amount of organic traffic, the keywords that are above positions 5 to 3 on Google, because those are going to receive enough traffic to actually A/B test and figure out what is working well or not. From there, you want to make sure that you're conducting the analysis of those keywords on the SERP. And with that analysis, we basically mean look at the competition around you. See how other websites are essentially positioning their title tags and figure out some cool ideas that you can take advantage of. From there, write those new optimized page titles and go ahead and make sure that you're aligning them with your H1s if possible. Publish a new title. Pay attention within Google Search Console to see if your impressions are going up, to see if your click-through rates are going up. And from there, wait about 2 to 3 weeks every time you make a change. Don't make a change daily unless you have hundreds of thousands of visitors visiting these pages, because you don't want to make a change without hitting what we call statistical significance. So you want enough people to come to a page for you to determine, okay, this test was successful or this test was unsuccessful. So what we normally say is wait about 2 to 3 weeks, maybe even a month, depending on how much traffic you have. And from there, analyze the results. See what worked well, what didn't work well. If things worked well, don't be afraid to apply those aspects to other pages on your website, because it's still your audience visiting those other pages. They may react to the same information on the other pages. So A/B testing for title tags.
All right. Tip number 5, UX continues to get more important over time. And so if you think about what's caused a lot of the more recent Google core algorithm updates, it's Google really better understanding what users actually want when they do specific queries and how well websites align with what users are actually looking for. And so you have to be thinking about like if people visited your website for the first time, and more specifically, if search engines were to see it for the first time, would they be able to understand what's going on with the website, what the actual goal of the page is, and whether or not it allows users to actually accomplish those goals? So, definitely continuing to think about what is a good user experience, both from the perspective of actual people, but also from Google, and that can help you be successful, but at the very least, prevent you from getting hit by future core algorithm updates. Because the more that you're able to align with what Google believes is a good user experience, the less likely you are to be hit by those core algorithm updates. So there's an element of future proofing here as well. And there's a couple really interesting statistics that I at least found fascinating, right? So 88% of users are less likely to return to a website after a bad user experience. And it makes sense, right? If you go to Google and you click on the top result and it just doesn't load, or it loads really slowly, or there's a pop-up and you try to exit out and you accidentally hit a little bit too far to the left of the X, and so it thinks you clicked on it, brings you to a different window. Those experiences are so annoying that it really, kills the opportunity for that person to potentially become a customer of your business. And then that second one is really focused around the opportunity to grow conversion, right? So, UX design, improved UX design could raise customer conversion rates, in some cases by up to 400%, which is obviously huge, right? I'm sure everybody on this webinar would do anything they could to get a 400% increase in a conversion metric. So, one of the biggest investments that we've been making internally here at NP Digital is in the UX team. It's a big area of focus for us because there is so much SEO impact and conversion impact there long-term. So here's a couple of tips. One is removing, CSS and JavaScript. That helps the site load faster in most cases, and also, helps prevent a lot of those negative outcomes that we talked about before that 88% of users don't like, that slow loading experience. And along those lines, using page speed insights. So Google gives you just a tremendous amount of tools that you can utilize on your own website to understand how they could be perceiving your speed in the experience for users. So definitely recommend looking at those tools. Even in Google Analytics and Search Console, there's more specific tools as well that help you understand how Google sees your website from a speed perspective. So, definitely continue to use those. And here's 4 tips on how to improve the UX of your website. One is what we just talked about. So anything that's causing the site to load slower, ditch it if possible. 2, we still see a lot of benefit by using responsive design. It tends to be, a little bit smaller of a site, and it loads faster and obviously is able to be used no matter what device people might be using. Making sure the navigation is intuitive and important pages are 1 to 2 clicks in. This is also part of tip number 3 around internal linking, right? So making sure that, not only are the links right for users, but we're also giving the right tips to search engines around which pages are important and which pages we want to see do well in search results. And then last but certainly not least is ensuring that all the information on your pages is accurate. We've seen so much success by refreshing old content and making sure that stuff that might have been accurate a year or 2 ago is updated to be accurate today for searchers that might be doing new searches and potentially new customers as well.
Awesome. So tip number 6, let's focus on EAT. This is a large part of Google's algorithm. If any of you don't know, EAT stands for expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. So essentially, this is what powers the snippet section of Google's search engine. So if you compare your page to the snippets that appear for target keywords, do you think your content can compete with that content? And essentially what I mean by snippets in this presentation right now is kind of position 0. So if I type into Google, how far is Earth from the sun? I'm going to see a quick box pop up that's going to show me a quick answer snippet with a URL at the bottom. And then paid ads and organic search starts popping up. So position 0 is a highly coveted position within Google, even though some people may feel like that doesn't receive a lot of traffic nowadays, but it's still a great branding opportunity. People still do click on the result there to get more information because that answer may have just been the tip of the iceberg for them and they want to get more contextual information. But essentially, let's talk a little bit about how to leverage those snippets and how to prioritize EAT, because most industries within Google's algorithm are impacted by EAT nowadays. So Google says basically good content quality is essential for positioning. And that's the biggest thing with expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness, is if you're adding those three aspects to all of the type of content on your website, your homepage content, your landing page content, your product or service page content, and then on top of that, supporting all of those pages are your blog posts and blog content. You want to make sure you're adding EAT throughout all of those layers. And like I said before, that feature snippet box is position 0, but your EAT score is extremely important to obtaining position 0, is making sure that within your content from an expertise standpoint, you're including statistics, you're including information that other competition may not be talking about. From an authoritativeness standpoint, you are talking about things that the industry seems to believe are relevant. And then from a trustworthiness standpoint, you have other websites linking to that content. You have other people supporting your claims, your outbound linking to relevant websites. So all of these different things impact EAT. So here's a useful tip that we wanted to talk about today of ways that you can implement EAT. So one of the categories that we talk about are either answering related topics, so doing some research like on Quora or certain other websites out there to figure out what are the most relevant questions people are asking today that I may not be addressing in my content. On top of that, once you start finding out what all those questions are, you can do two things. You can start creating a more robust FAQ section on your website. So FAQs still to this day are an incredible part of what impacts an SEO campaign, not only because of the content, but also provides an incredible opportunity for adding advanced schema to those FAQ sections so that you can show up for certain questions in position 0 of Google within the snippets. But the reason we want to talk about an editorial calendar here is because once you find all of those different questions that people are asking within your industry, you can take those questions and map them out in an editorial calendar to start producing great blog content around each question. So not only addressing them within an FAQ, but then going above and beyond and giving it its own blog post for almost each question and answer so that you can really go in depth with that form of content. So another example here is Dare Limited. They went ahead and added a similar strategy to what we're talking about here with an FAQ section. What they did is they went long form FAQ. So within each question, rather than just giving a quick blurb and then directing people to another page, they decided to really go deep on answering that question on the page. And so what ended up happening with that strategy is they essentially saw a 51% uplift in less than 3 months to their organic traffic. So literally huge gains in such a short amount of time from adding such robust content that was within the EAT realm. Also, on top of that, what attributed to that 51% of organic traffic increase was over 2,000 keywords were indexed from their domain that were never indexed before. So if they wouldn't have added this content, that would have been 2,000 less keywords that Google would have never seen them as relevant or authoritative for, that now they're ranking for, and it's bringing them a ton of more traffic. So 4 quick steps to take this into action today. Like I said before, audit existing content to improve the quality. Do some research out there on Quora and other websites to find good questions. Also look at your own content for duplicate content, because those are great opportunities for you to add unique content to your website. You want to make sure that you're improving your content through the EAT algorithm and EAT scoring systems. You want to make sure that you're building an editorial calendar so you can pace yourself and kind of not burn out and do it all at one time. You want to make sure over time Google sees that you're continuously adding EAT-worthy content to your website, or going back to old content and refreshing it with an EAT aspect. And then you want to make sure you edit or remove that old content that doesn't follow the best practices of Google's EAT algorithm.
Tip number 7, create videos on YouTube and add them to your content to increase your organic traffic. Now, when I mean add it to your content, I'm talking about within your own website. And I know a lot of you don't create videos. I know Instagram's already popular, YouTube is popular, Facebook is. You can use videos from any of the platforms and repurpose it. But just think about this one thing if you're not heavy into video creation yet. Do you think users would rather read a 2,000-word article or watch a 5-minute video on that topic? Yeah, you can skim the article, so some may say that, but you can also skim the videos as well and really get an understanding of what they're covering. And heck, some of these video players like on YouTube, you can watch them at faster speeds to also digest the information quicker as well. So what we've seen, and we do this on the neilpatel.com website, is we take our YouTube videos every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. So like today I publish a video. Every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday, I publish videos on YouTube. What I also do with those videos is I go into my old articles or even new ones as I'm writing them, and I'll see what videos I have that are also related, and I push them within my content on my site. And what I found is it helps with the overall organic traffic of the videos. And search results will start pulling those videos with good thumbnails that have high CTRs. And it just helps the overall traffic increase to your site. It makes those videos more popular, which then also helps you get more views on YouTube as well. And it works. Like my channel has over 1 million subscribers. Funny enough, next to me, I'm in my bedroom right now. But next to our bed, I haven't opened it yet because I'm in a rental until my house gets finished. I have a little box from YouTube with my plaque for 1 million plus subscribers, and I haven't opened it yet, but I still need. One day I will. And the strategy that we've used that has helped us really, really well is we add the videos in within our content. We use structured data to keep the traffic on our website. And as you can see from the image on the right, when people are searching on Google, they're pulling videos, and those videos on our website, even though they're hosted on YouTube. And it's a great way for us to get more and more traffic. Another thing that we do that's helped us with our YouTube videos is make sure you test the titles. Matt talked about this a little bit earlier. Now in YouTube, the title that you put, we haven't seen them really modify the titles much, but your titles impact your click-through rate quite a bit, and so does the thumbnails. And that also can determine where those videos are placed from an organic perspective as well on Google. So how do you use video content to improve your SEO? Create a YouTube channel and post regularly. You don't have to do daily. I do 3 times a week. At least once a week is what you should aim for, if not more. Feature YouTube videos in your own website content. So if you, like today, I released a video on Instagram and lessons or strategies that I used from 0 followers all the way to strategies that I used when I was, let's say, at 100,000 followers, to even the strategies I used when I was at 290,000 plus followers. Because the strategies I used to grow my Instagram account vary depending on where my follower count was at that time. So then if I have articles on, let's call it Instagram marketing, I'll see which articles are relevant and embed that video in as well. You may need to adjust your content here or there, but it's pretty easy to do. Then you want to use structured data to point traffic towards your website. That's pretty self-explanatory and easy. And then add recent videos to old content. I know I mentioned this, but I need to mention it again because it's one of the easiest ways to boost your YouTube views, especially if some of your old articles are ranking really well on Google. Adding the videos in there will get them constant views over time. And then, of course, make sure you test and optimize the results for maximum traffic. And we also have a bonus section for you. And I wanted to go over 5 SEO trends gaining traction that you need to keep an eye out on. Look, SEO is a game of details. You can beat your competition by focusing on the smallest things. And it's not just one small thing. You got to do all the little small things. Because here's the thing with SEO. It's not one thing that's going to beat your competition. It's doing 100 things right that's going to beat your competition when your competition's just focusing on 5 or 6 or 8 of them. Moz did an interesting study. Here's what everyone sees when it comes to, hey, what are the ranking factors out there, whether it's from links, and as you can see, links are a huge factor, or it's social metrics, or it's, domain level brand features. But you get a sense that it's a lot of things that make up what Google looks at, and it's way more than this. This is just an overview of what people see. Backlinko has an article on Google's ever-growing list of their 200 ranking factors if you guys want more of an in-depth view. So let's dive into the trends. Trend number 1, leverage Google's full suite of SERP features, right? So Google wants to be a destination. If you think about it, depending on what industry you're in, whether you're in the mortgage industry or the travel industry, Google's offering everything from flight statuses to flight time to mortgage rates to mortgage calculators. And you want to optimize your site to feed into that. So then that way you're providing Google whatever they need to be that destination. So that way your site starts ranking better. You want to make sure you're optimizing your content for video, image, even podcasting. If you have a podcast, Google's indexing podcasts these days. It doesn't drive a ton of traffic yet, but it will more and more over time. Trend number 2, optimize your content for user intent. Use semantic keyword research tools to find related entities, and then optimize your content for intent, not keywords. Think about it, right? If someone is searching for something, they're searching for it not because they want to learn more about their keyword, but they're searching for it because they want a solution to their problem. When you do a search, think about what you expect. You don't just expect a page to be on that topic. You expect that page to also solve your problem, whether it's through products or whether it's through services or whether it's through information that teaches you how to solve that problem. So optimize your content creation around intent, not just keywords, but what is the intent the user is going to expect and solve it. Trend number 3, don't ignore mobile and voice search. Mobile voice search or mobile search and voice, a lot of voice search actually happens on a mobile device. And what most people don't talk about is voice commerce is massive. It's already in the billions and billions in range. And I forgot the stat, but it was from like OC&C Consulting. And I believe it's getting into the double-digit billions already in voice search commerce. So you want to make sure that you're optimizing for it. Using headings helps with this. Answer common questions. Look at what people are talking about on Quora. That'll give you ideas as well. On Ubersuggest, there's a question and answer section. There's also tools like Answer the Public that can also give you ideas on what people are looking for. And with your mobile devices, make sure that your sites are optimized from load time to user experience to responsive design as well. And we talked about EAT earlier, but this is a super important part. And the reason I want to mention it again is because there's a lot of fake news out there, and how are search engines, and not just search engines, but also platforms like Facebook combating the fake news? They're looking at EAT, and social networks have their own variation of it, but they know a BBC or a CNN or a Nike, even though that they sell products, these brands are less likely to put out bogus information or fake news. So make sure that you think about EAT and follow it as well. Trend 5, right? Understanding MUM to improve rankings. If you follow a lot of Google updates, check out MUM. It's 1,000 times more powerful than BERT, which is one of their older updates. And MUM focuses on sentiments, context, and entities. So you can just Google about MUM. There's a lot of articles on it, and just understand it because it'll help you improve your rankings. So we went over quite a few tips. I'm not going to repeat them all. That way we have more time for Q&A. We also went over some trends. You can take a screenshot of this on your computer if you want them. Just if you don't have the time, just use 1 or 2, or you can just check out agencies like ours at NP Digital, where we can just help implement all of these things for you. If you have a phone, you can take it out, scan the QR code if you want to work with us, and it'll take you to a page, fill out your details, and you can get started. But let's dive into some questions.
Let's do it. Hi, everyone. I have a bunch of questions that you guys have added to the chat. So we'll start with Gary, and he's asking, how do I measure my SEO ROI?
Yeah, good question. Did you want to take that one, Neil?
Go for it.
Yeah, so Gary, I think it all comes down to how you set things up within your Google Analytics as well as Google Search Console. So the first thing that I would urge is that you log in today and make sure that you have goals set up. Depending on what industry you're in, if it's lead generation or e-commerce, obviously e-commerce is going to be a lot easier to see the ROI, but essentially once you have goals set up, you're able to track the funnel from impressions to clicks, which is organic traffic, to then seeing what goals are converting from that organic traffic, okay? So you can see goals dependent on pages that you're ranking for, which those goals may be assigned to. You can see goals just aggregate for all of organic as a medium. But essentially the next step after goals is if you can also attribute a dollar value to those goals, you can then start to see very quickly how much monetary value your organic traffic may be bringing to you.
Nice. Thank you, Matt. Now we have one by Amanda Medeiros about YouTube SEO. If you hack the captions or subtitles of your videos to include more keywords, can you make your videos rank higher?
So you don't want to hack the subtitles, and here's why. So when you're using like the SRT files and you're just putting in more keywords, that's not a really good user experience. Or the captions, and you're just saying, hey, here's the descriptions, and let me just put a transcript and add more keywords than I'm really talking about. YouTube is able to decipher the words you say in a video. Like in this video, it's streamed, it's on YouTube as well. They know we mentioned the word SEO, but if we didn't mention the word SEO and we're just adding in that keyword, they know it's going to hurt your overall channel and it's going to mess up your other videos as well. So don't try to use don't try to use tricks that could be quote unquote deceptive. And more so what you should do is if your video is on that topic and keyword, they'll know it. They're using like a LSI, right? They're using like, think of it like a thesaurus. They know if you're talking about SEO, you're talking about digital marketing and keywords and link building. But on the flip side, if your video's on digital marketing and you don't talk about SEO in there, but you want to shove in some SEO keywords, not really the right fit.
Yeah, not worth it risking your account's reputation, apparently. So by Leo Rogers is asking, how can social signals affect SEO?
Yeah, I'll take that one. You have to look at them similar to the way that you look at links, right? So, what Google is in a lot of ways looking for is overall website popularity, right? So for a long time, the only signals that they would have to understand how popular a website might be is the number of links that are pointing to it. But as social came to, in some ways be a bigger deal over the past 5 or 10 years, Google has been able to interpret those signals to help understand how popular a website may be. So, the way that we like to look at it is really, trying to understand who the influencers are and who the journalists might be in a given space, and understanding what content is being shared a lot on the various social networks. Of course, you'll want to look at the networks that are most relevant to your business and your audience. It might be LinkedIn if you're, marketing to other businesses or business people, or, it might be Facebook or Instagram if you're B2C, but really understanding what those networks are that your audience is participating on, and what is doing well from a sharing perspective. And, then creating content that is also likely to get shared and mentioned and linked to. If you're able to do that, you can be successful.
Thank you, David. Next up is a question by Growth Lab Financial. They're asking, can linking too much internally be negative? How many links on one page is too much?
Yeah, I can probably take that one too. So, like anything, there's probably if you think about a bell curve in some ways, right? Like there's kind of that Goldilocks zone, think about it, that, not too cold, not too cold, not too hot, but just right. You have to do something that really looks natural. It's hard for me without looking at your website to give you a specific quantity of internal links. But you want to make sure that it would look natural to both search engines and users. And that you're not continually repeating anchor text. So, you're not taking, for example, every instance of a single keyword and hyperlinking it to an individual page. That's probably on the side of doing it too much. But, you really want to understand and think about what is, enough, and how you could do it in a way that is, not going to look overly, overly spammy, for lack of a better term, to a user and a search engine. So, it's hard to again give a specific number without knowing the website and having a look at the other competitors in the space and what's doing well. But it's one of those where you need to use your best judgment and do it enough where it's a clear signal to search engines, but not too much where it's a clear signal to search engines that you're trying to spam.
Got it. So this next one is about snippets. So maybe you can answer, Matt. Mr. Kumar is saying, how to make my site appear in different snippets?
Yeah. So the first step, obviously, Mr. Kumar, is essentially looking at what are the questions for the snippets that you're looking at, right? And so what you're going to want to do is, like I was talking about in that second tip there, is do some competitive analysis. See who may already be in that snippet, or see if there's a question where there isn't a snippet yet, and just see what are the top 3 to 5 results already talking about, and how you can position content that's a lot better than those top 3 to 5 results, and incorporate some of the EAT stuff I was talking about. Make sure the content is not duplicate from anywhere else. Make sure it's completely unique. Make sure you're adding in some expertise, some authoritativeness, trustworthiness, to make sure that you are the only source talking about some of these topics. And by doing all of that, you should inevitably start to rank in that position 0 of the snippet results. But it does take some of that auditing and legwork in the beginning to understand, who do you need to supersede? What type of content do you need to write? What is your audience looking for when asking that question? What type of answer and intent is behind their question? If you can create content around that, you should rank within position 0.
Okay. Now, Neil, I guess that's for you. It's from Jose, and he's asking which SEO tools you would recommend for SMEs.
So if you're a small and medium enterprise, I would just start with Ubersuggest. You can do a lot for free. I would start with Google Search Console. There's Google Analytics that we mentioned as well. Google Trends helps you spot a lot of data when it comes to popular content that you should consider writing on in your industry. But you can start off with that. There's a ton of other tools out there like Ahrefs and Moz and SEMrush, and the list goes on and on. But if you're a small, medium enterprise, I would start off with the free stuff or the freemium stuff.
Perfect. So now, either Matt or David, what has been your greatest, biggest work challenge related to SEO recently that you had with the client? And then how did you solve it?
Yeah, I'll go first, David. I think one of the biggest challenges that we've been facing lately is obviously Google's Core Web Vitals algorithm update that occurred middle of last year. And it's been a challenge as well as a great result for a lot of campaigns that we manage here, because obviously we do have a lot of customers who have great environments, great websites. We already focus a lot on technical in the beginning of the campaign, but some of the tougher websites that we've been facing with Core Web Vitals have been more of like the drag and drop websites like Squarespace, Wix, Weebly. These have been websites that have been pretty tough to overcome some of the Core Web Vital metrics, such as like cumulative layout shift or first contentful paint, simply because those platforms are very limiting in regards of how much we can affect the code. A lot of that code is hidden from the user because it's a drag and drop website. It's not meant for true web development, So it's been a little bit of a challenge having to get customers to realize that there's only so much optimization we can do in those environments. And if they want to see a greater impact, they're going to have to migrate to a more robust environment like a WordPress or a Shopify or BigCommerce. So Core Web Vitals has been kind of a double-edged sword for us.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. We've seen a decent number of clients be on platforms that really aren't optimized for speed. Webflow is another one as well. So, really working with clients to help understand the specific changes that they'll need to make in order to be compliant with Core Web Vitals and the page experience update, to minimize the likelihood, again, of being hit by future algorithm updates. But there's also been a lot more turbulence in the search results themselves, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to unravel what is causing a specific change in a specific SERP, right? Is it a shift in intent? So does Google believe that users want something different? Are specific websites being knocked down because they may not align with the right user intent? Is Google possibly lowering their ranking because of some external factors like linking, things like that. So, definitely working with clients to understand why things might be shifting around specific keywords and specific search results, and then what to do based on that, has also been fairly new, but we've been able to be successful by looking really at a daily level to see what might be changing, and then understanding specifically around those websites around what it is that they should modify to continue to increase their performance.
Okay, nice. Thank you, Matt and David. Now, final question for Neil. Can you explain, Neil, what are some of the advantages of using an agency instead of just doing in-house SEO marketing?
The biggest advantage that you'll end up seeing is an agency works with a lot of clients. So they're seeing data across many different industries and they're running so many different experiments. They're seeing what's working and quicker than what most in-house teams are. So they're able to use that data to generate results faster. That's the biggest thing. You can do it really well in-house if you hire the right people. It usually isn't as efficient unless you're a really massive company. But for smaller businesses, you'll end up needing quite a few people to focus on it, and they may not have enough work for a full-time role. But that's it. That was our last question. Thank you guys, everyone, for attending. I know we're running up out of time. Really appreciate it. And like I said earlier, if you just take one of the tactics that David or Matt or I talked about, whether it's YouTube or adjusting your title tags, just pick one of them and implement it, and you'll start getting better results. And if you need help implementing them, always check out our agency, NP Digital, where we can just do it for you.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
All right,
Bye.
thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good one.
My name is Neil Patel, and I help companies generate more revenue through digital marketing. Entrepreneur Magazine said I was the #1 marketer in the world. My name is Neil Patel, and they also said I created one of the 100 more revenue through digital marketing. I started my first website at the age of 16. marketer in the world, and they also said all the money that I earned from working at an amusement park, and I started my first website at the age of 16. The marketing firm provided no results. I took all the money that I quickly learned from working at an amusement park, and I paid a marketing. Out of my frustration and marketing firm provided I had no results but to learn more. And I quickly learned my first client was a power supply manufacturer. Out of my frustration and from being $25 million in sales, I had no choice but to learn. From that point, my first client was a power supply manufacturer. I helped them generate another $25 million. And I built my reputation by being honest and over delivering. I realized the power of I've helped companies like Google. I helped everyone that I could. Viacom, and I built my reputation by being honest and over delivering. But nothing's more satisfying. I've helped companies like Google, NBC, Viacom, General Motors, eBay. I founded 4 multi-million-dollar companies, but nothing's more satisfying. And I've learned all the mistakes that you should avoid. I've written about them on Forbes. I founded 4 multi-million-dollar companies, and I've learned all the mistakes that you should avoid. I've written about them awesome to on know Forbes that colleges from all around the world are teaching my material, and even on my own blogs. Over the years, I've received awards to know from the President of the United States, all around the world, the House of Representatives, and the United Nations. Over the years, I've received awards marketing is from the President of the United States, the House of Representatives, that's not true. The United Nations. There is a formula. Even if you don't have a technical bone in your body, you can get results. Fortunately, and my mission is to share this formula with you. Even if you don't have a technical bone in your body, you can get results. And my mission is to share this formula with you.